Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Success Stories. Today I have a fantastic gentleman, Dan Taylor, who I met on a coaching call, who's got some pretty good things to tell you about. So, hi, Dan.
Hello. Good to be
Hello.
here.
I can. Strangely enough, you had a little bit of a choppy internet then, so it looked like you were a ventriloquist and you said hello, but your lips didn't move. We're great believers in not editing if we can possibly do it. Anyway, Dan, first question is, what made you look at going carnivore and then eventually convinced you to do it?
Yeah, well, quite honestly, the reality is I never was getting the results that I had wanted with various different eating styles or nutritional supplements that I've been taking over the years. Always trying different things, yearning for that perfect feeling of health and wellness. And quite honestly, it was the feeling of that I grew up with and had into my early 50s where I'm at today. And then my wife about a year ago got followed the Carnivore team, got hooked up with other people that you've worked with and started watching podcasts and online videos and was very and got a recommendation even from another friend of hers about it. So she looked into it, got into it, encouraged me to try it, at which I did. At the time before I got on it, I was on a gluten-free diet, which really wasn't still giving me the results that I had yearned for.
That's fascinating. So did you notice a big difference in your wife then? I'm assuming you must have done.
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah. Just all sorts of benefits that I've noticed with my wife for sure. So obviously that was encouraging. And at the end of the day, I trust my wife. So if she's saying, hey, you got to try this, that works too.
That's fantastic. So would you mind just sharing what you saw in your wife, what improved with her conditions or whatever?
Yeah, she lost a moderate amount of weight, I would say. She was never really, neither of us were never really would be deemed as somebody you'd see outside and or in public and say this person is obese to some extent, or your body mass index would have been over the charts, that your doctor would have been screaming about at you about your diet and your exercise plan in life. It was just about kind of how we felt. We're the same age. We're both 53. It's a lifestyle. We feel like we always ate fairly well. The kind of people that would try to eat a balanced diet of, your vegetables and your proteins and your meats and stay hydrated and do all those things to get a moderate level of exercise. We get into routines where we ride bikes or we walk quite often and things like that to stay moderately active at our age. And just saw those benefits that she could actually, we could actually go out and do things without the back pains that we typically would have had, perhaps discomfort, not feeling as well as we typically would have wanted to in just normal lifestyle.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's focus on you now, Dan.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get your wife on at some point. So what were what were the biggest things that you were worried about?
I mean, I've struggled with a level of anxiety over the years, that degree, and then always just like, having in my family, there's heart conditions too. And so you always, as you age, you always think about, well, what genes do I have that my parents had that I need to be concerned about, et cetera. And how can I, or how should I adjust my lifestyle accordingly to that? It was that, and just feeling like always, my pants are a little bit tighter than they normally would have been. It's the belly, the wonderful belly fat that you get that you have to deal with, and you can tuck it in or tighten the belt an extra notch once in a while. But it's just that level of comfort. And I don't know how to describe it other than you just feel like you're a little bit heavier and sluggish than you would typically want to be.
Yes. But luckily, we've also got some empirical data, some actual numbers, because one of the things we talked about was your blood pressure. So I wondered if you could just speak to how high it had got and where it came down to on carnivore.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's what led to kind of like my level of anxiety, to be honest with you, is just the high hypertension that starts to build when your blood pressure gets up. So I've been on blood pressure medicine for a good couple of years now. And at some point over the last year and a half, actually, I ended up upping my blood pressure medicine my doctor did with me, and I was on two different medicines at the same time, just to balance it. And again, just trying to live the right lifestyle, having exercise and so forth. And the blood pressure would range, well above 140 over 90, 95, things like that. At my range, they would tell me that's you're just on the verge of being high blood pressure, and you can just tell when you want to do something about it. And so yeah, that's where I was running, on and off, even with medication. I would go to the doctor and they would take my blood pressure and be like, oh, okay, we'll take it again in a couple minutes. Maybe you'll settle down. And it never seemed to get to it was a manageable level, I think, that I guess we could all feel good about, but never a great blood pressure, but a blood pressure just at that cusp of being hypertension, officially being hypertensive and having have BPI. So
I think you mentioned you got into the 150s and over 90s as well at some point. And
that's
what,
correct. Yeah, consistently. Yeah.
yeah, and what are you down to at the moment?
So now, I am, by the way, I'm almost just a week under 6 months into carnivore. And my blood pressure, I just took it the other day, and it was one of my best readings I've had yet. 126 over 85.
Wow.
I'm
Wow. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. That's good. It's really good.
And like
I think,
anybody, I mean, it fluctuates, but consistently. And by the way, I've cut my blood pressure in half, not because my doctors told me to, or they've allowed me to yet at this point, but I did it. It just felt like I could. And
mm,
I've been doing that for several months. And my blood pressure is where it is. And so,
yes. And I think it's always good I mean, to talk to your healthcare professional. My wife came off of her blood pressure meds, and the doctor was just overjoyed actually. And we had a doctor that was supportive and even was quite supportive of the diet, which was amazing. So that was good. Um,
excellent.
yeah, so it's good that you're coming off the medication. You probably do need to check in with your healthcare provider, but you're seeing on your blood pressure readings, it's going the right way. It's trending the right way. So I don't think they'd be overly concerned because, it seems to be working what you're doing. I think the other thing, so we talked about blood pressure and anxiety. You also mentioned you had back, hip, and knee pain. So I wondered if you could talk about how bad that had gotten and what it's like now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I should state that 6 months, just about 6 months on carnivore, and I am a little over 20 pounds less. And that
Wow.
is consistently over 22 pounds, just about. So my answer to that is I know I was carrying around probably a little more weight than my structure probably wanted to carry around, and equate that to the fact that I've always been an athletic person, played a lot of sports, younger age. I've lifted a lot of weights, and I continue to lift weights and exercise over the years, probably a lot less intense than I used to when I was in my 20s and 30s. I still get to the gym several days a week. And so a couple years ago, I have chronic back. Always feel like someday, long time ago, I lifted weights the wrong way, ruptured a back muscle, and ever since then, I was dealing with back pain and inflammation. And so always a very sensitive lower back area. Outside of that, I also carry a lot of pressure up on my upper shoulders and back and all of that. So I think the fact that I was able to shed a really good solid 22 pounds and keep it off, it's not like it's a struggle for me to keep it off and I have to, fast or starve myself by any means. It's just all good. It's all good balanced weight. I did have playing some volleyball a couple years ago, tore an ACL and ruptured my meniscus in my leg. And at the time, the doctor's like, yeah, we have to operate on it. I'm not a big fan of operating. I felt like I could rehabilitate the leg and so forth. that was obviously giving me a lot of issues, just even walking with my wife in the afternoons and evenings when we wanted to go for a good 30-minute walk or so. I'd make it about 10 to 15 minutes, and I would start to feel pains up and down from my ankle up to my hip. And those things are pretty much subsided. I don't really have that uh, issue anymore. So I know that that deals with a lot of different, I'm assuming not only just the less weight, but the level of less stress and inflammation, all that's going around in my body from other things that I used to eat that I don't eat any longer.
Yes. What have you cut out? What's been the main things that have gone away from your diet?
So, I mean, I grew up in the 80s lifting weights, and it was all about carbon up.
Mm,
And
yep.
I body built, I did organic and natural bodybuilding for a few years as well. That's how into lifting I was. And with that, you would obviously streamline down your diet, but even then you'd eat all sorts of vegetables and low fat, high pro. It was all about high protein, high protein, high protein. But you could add all kinds of other things into there, and it would fuel your body. And the reality was, I think all those carbs just got to me. I mean, I like anybody. I love a good pizza. I love ice cream. I love all the condiments and the fixings and the breads and things like that. So my wife used to call me I was just a major carb king,
Mm.
which didn't do me any favors. And so I think with that obviously comes the element of sugar, a lot of sugar.
Mm.
So I think that's where I netted down that I needed to control and manage that a little bit better. And it was hard to always do it. So I tried a lot of different diets.
Mm. And have you found carnivore has been the easiest one to get away from those cravings?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I went through, I call it the adaptation stages for a few months, that we all do when you're shedding the pounds. And yeah, my body shifted a lot. Within weeks, it didn't take me long. I mean, and I'm one of those, I'm very focused. Like when I commit to something, I want to see the short, and even when I start to see benefits, like anybody does, it's going to motivate and incentivize them to continue to do what they're doing because they're getting results that they always yearn for, that they never used to get in other ways. And yeah, I do have a lot less, I think after a good 6 months now, I got a lot of things at least out of my system, probably have more to go. But I don't get cravings. I can, even around the holidays, you're spending time with friends and family, and there's plenty of baked goods and treats. And I can manage to not try any because I just don't have a desire to try any of those. So,
Does that surprise you? Does that surprise you looking at your past?
yeah, I mean, I always used to be one to say, hey, I'll have a cookie. What's a cookie gonna do,
Mm.
But yeah, but just I think I used to it's all about rationale for me. I'm a very rational person, so I would always rationalize saying, oh, I'll hit an extra mile on the bike, or I'll, stay at the gym an extra 20 minutes if I have this piece of cake,
Mm.
those kinds of things. And I think that's how probably a lot of people maybe live, and adjust their eating habits with their lifestyle for getting the physical and mental results that they want to get. But
Cool. So, what does a sort of average day of food look like for you? What are you eating, and are you doing 2 meals a day or three? What does it work?
yeah, it's a good question. Two and or three. What I do is I end up having probably a late. So I love coffee. I have coffee a couple times a day for sure. That hasn't hurt me. I do the heavy cream on my coffee, so I try to minimize the carbs. And I have a late breakfast, I would say, with over easy eggs or some sort of eggs. If I get my pick, it's over easy for me. I load in the bacon, ham, sausage, whatever we can throw in there. Love that. Sometimes I make so much of that I split it, and I have some at breakfast between maybe 9 or 10 o'clock my time, and then hit another one around 1 or 2 o'clock. That gets me easily through to dinner, where I'll maybe throw a steak on the grill. My wife and I will have burgers. Um, Throw some cheese on there because we can do that. But I don't eat a lot of cheese. I just don't really crave or have a need for a lot of cheese. And that's it.
Fabulous. That's such
Yeah.
simple advice. I mean, you're a man after my own heart, actually. What about well, yeah, I like to keep it simple. I think it is really a very simple way of doing your nutrition, just making sure it works how you want. I'm very much a 2 or 3 meal a day sort of person. I can do 1 meal a day, but doesn't really fit my lifestyle. I quite like having a couple of meals. Do you do any fasting?
Not really. I haven't officially done any fasting. I think I would say I've unofficially done some fasting when I just haven't had time. I work a lot and I'll be at my desk and all of a sudden the time will pass. I realize I've gone all day without eating. But yeah, and the fact that I can even go all day without eating is also amazing because before I was usually rummaging in the pantry looking for the next snacks and pulling something up to my desk at about 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon by habit and craving, large craving for that in the afternoon. But no.
Yeah, you see, this is exactly the same here, which is why I think we got on when you did the coaching session, because it resonated with me, because I can't believe the food freedom side of things. And you're right to say you can go through the day and suddenly think, oh, I haven't eaten. It's not a big deal. And I think I was exactly the same as you. When I was high carb, it would definitely be, oh, it's 2:30. I might be able to just have a snack now. I'd be thinking about food throughout the day. But this
Yeah.
way of eating, you've just hit the nail on the head perfectly. So I think that's fabulous. You did do some coaching as well, and I wouldn't mind you just talking about why you felt you needed to do that.
Coaching.
Hmm. Well, you booked me.
Um, I mean, I don't know. I just always, I like to share, and really help others. I think it's always been
Hmm.
in my DNA to work with
Hmm.
other people and help other people. So yeah, I kind of unofficially do that. And I've been doing that throughout my family. I've told people, hey, I'm on this new diet. Minute you mention diet, people get desensitized to, oh, what's the latest, like,
Hmm.
miracle, formula that you're going to be doing to drop weight and eat whatever you want and so forth and so on and get these crazy results. But yeah, I mean, I said, look, I'm hitting milestones right now in this new, carbo free and carnivore diet.
Hmm.
And when I get to those, like getting blood tests done and checking in with my doctor, which I always encourage people to do and stay closely knitted to that in the right way, I can better then be a result of and feel good about endorsing and coaching others along the way with kind of where they're at with
Hmm.
their how they're feeling and their diet, what they might be feel like they're missing perhaps, or how they feel energy wise, a lot of those ups and downs. And so it gets me into a lot of different discussions. There's a lot of people that I know that are dabbling in and around the keto diet,
Hmm.
and even my doctor today recommends the keto diet, really, not so much the hardcore. I would call it, I don't know if I call it hardcore, but it's the carnivore diet, which is different than keto for sure. But yeah, I also know a lot of people on keto that I don't think they've really quite gotten the results yet that they've been yearning for. So, but they enjoy a lot of different foods, and that enables you to continue to enjoy a lot of foods that perhaps maybe they want to. It's their choice.
Brilliant. So is there anything, Dan, that you'd want to add? I mean, I'm very happy with what we've talked about. I think it's been a nice, short, sharp interview where we've covered ever such a lot. 6 months, 22 pounds down, blood pressure down, anxiety down, hip, back, and knee pain down, avoiding a knee operation. Wow. And that's just in 20 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, skin hydration. You could go on and on. There's all sorts of things that you just recognize and realize, and probably you didn't get those benefits over the last 10, 15 years, perhaps as we all age. Yeah, I just feel you feel cleaner and better. You're more energetic and things like that. So I recently went to the doctor, and I had my update. I got full blood work done after 5 months, intentionally after being on this diet because I wanted to see the before and after. And all of my blood work is really good. I have an area of cholesterol that's obviously off the charts, and my doctor did reprimand me about my cholesterol. So I'm watching that closely, but I'm not afraid of it anymore because I still, even when I have my conversation with my doctor, I said, but I feel so much better. Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot of blood work done. Everything was off the charts good. except for cholesterol. And so my doctor has obviously raised the flag on that one to keep an eye on it. Wanted me to adjust my diet. And I said, but after almost 6 months now on this new carnivore diet, I'm having such good results. I feel so much better. I don't want to switch what I'm doing at this point in time. And so I ended up agreeing with my doctor to come back and see them in another 6 months, get more blood work done. So that enables me, they could see how passionate I was about how I felt and what I was doing. And to come back and see them again with another blood analysis, check on the cholesterol levels, in addition to have a heart scan, which I'm going to happily get done, and then see if there's calcium buildup and so forth around my heart for protection for obvious reasons. And so I said, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I'd love to get that done actually and see what kind of results I have as a result of that after it. And they said, hey, who knows, maybe you get that done and everything's looking really good on the scans and you can continue to follow this diet. But they have to, and their records recognize that and recommend that my cholesterol is showing up much higher than it used to on my prior blood work. Having said that, I'm still 22 pounds less. I look and feel great, and my blood pressure is manageable on half the medicine I used to be on, and I feel good to various degrees. And so that's enough to keep me kind of going. And we agreed to come back and see each other in 6 months. And so now we're going to do that. And the good thing about me, that puts me on the hook now to stay on the diet for another 6 months and continue to get results. Because I believe the body will just continue to move and evolve and benefit from what I did over the last 50 years of putting into my system. It's going to take probably longer than I'd like to see what actually happens after more than 5 or 6 months of that. So for that reason, I'm going to continue to live the way I'm living and have these habits that I've formed over the last few months. So,
yeah, the interesting thing about what you just said about your bloods is if I look at your lipid panel, your HDL cholesterol is pretty good at 63, and the reference range, they want you over 40. So 63 is pretty good. And your triglycerides are under 150, they're at 103. So those two independent markers, and especially that ratio, isn't too bad. I mean, obviously, we'd prefer the triglycerides to be lower and the HDL higher. So the ratio is sort of 1-to-1. Slightly more HDL than triglycerides is really good. But things like your blood glucose, your fasting glucose was 88. And there's so many things that are in a good range. And that was one of the reasons you booked me, because of my phlebotomy background. Your HbA1c is 5.3, and what you said, basically everything on your bloods is in the green and looking fantastic. And as males of our age, I'm 58, you're in your 50s, your PSA value is 0.53, and the reference range we want is under 4. And that's just a sign of prostate cancer if it's really high, that's or potential risk of that. So the bloods overall, the only thing that they are worried about is the LDL cholesterol, really. So I understand, because that's a standard duty of care to talk about that. So I thought that was brilliant. That was a brilliant discussion, Dan. That's really kind of you to do this. But I'm gonna bail out before the internet falls down again. But is there any final thoughts?
No, this is great. Yeah, I mean, if you're open to it too, I'm happy to. We should definitely connect again and talk in a few months as I continue the journey. Would love to stay in touch with you. And so far, so good. I would encourage anybody to please try it and reach out to people that know a lot about it.
Brilliant. Yeah. Dan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to subscribe, like, and comment, as it really does help the channel. Don't forget to subscribe